Sandra, let's bring in Arkansas Republican Senator Tom Cotton. He's a member of the Senate Armed Services Committee. So, Senator, China's reaction so far has been, I guess, restrained. It's mostly rhetoric. They're saying in a statement, quote, China strongly urges the United States to stop playing the Taiwan card, using Taiwan to contain China, should stop meddling on Taiwan and interfering in China's internal affairs, should stop supporting and conniving at Taiwan independent separatist forces in any form. It should stop its acts of saying one thing but doing the opposite on the Taiwan question. Again, a lot of rhetoric, a lot of bluster, fairly restrained, though, in terms of action. Do you expect that will last?
John, that's fairly typical rhetoric for the Chinese communists about Taiwan. I've traveled to Taiwan before. I've gone with large groups of senators. I've gone on the exact same kind of plane that Nancy Pelosi landed today. You hear the same kind of bluster, the same kind of threats, the same kind of rhetoric. The difference here is that Joe Biden elevated this to DEFCON 1 last month. He should have never leaked it to the public that Nancy Pelosi was going to go to Taiwan to try to pressure her not to go. He shouldn't have said the military didn't want her to go. The administration should not have pressured her not to go. It is completely normal and within 40 years of customs and practice of our relationship with Taiwan for members of Congress to travel to Taiwan, whether it's the Speaker of the House or a backbench first-term congressman. We cannot allow the Chinese communists to dictate where American citizens can travel and what we can do around the world, especially our elected leaders.
So it looks like, judging by China's response, it's likely that nothing will happen in the next 24 hours or so while the speaker is on the ground there, but something could happen afterwards. They're talking about these live fire exercises. What posture should the Biden administration take toward China on Taiwan when Speaker Pelosi departs?
John, I do expect that the Chinese communists will take more aggressive action towards Taiwan because they have been taking aggressive action towards Taiwan. They've been entering Taiwanese airspace for months and months to degrade Taiwan's Air Force or to test its reactions. They've taken these provocative actions in part because they think they can get away with it. What it's well past time to do is for the United States to make clear that we will support Taiwan if the Chinese communists go for the jugular. If they try to invade and annex Taiwan, we will support them, and we will do so militarily. The reason we do that is not because we want to have a war. The reason to do that up front is because it takes strength and resolution and clarity to prevent a war from happening in the first place.
Senator, let me ask you about something else that we were just talking with Jon Stewart and Mindy Byer about, and that is the PACT Act to provide funding to treat veterans who are coming down with grave illnesses because of exposure to burn pits in Iraq and Afghanistan. You voted initially for the bill in June. You voted against it when it came back from the House. Why did you vote against it? What needs to change in order for it to get your support?
Well, John, the vote last week was not on the bill itself. It was whether or not we wanted to end debate or have amendments. So I voted for it in June because it's a good bill, and we need to take care of these veterans who have been exposed to these toxic substances. Right now, Senator Pat Toomey has an amendment that, in my opinion, would make it even better bill. I hope that we get to vote on it. We may be able to do that as soon as today, in addition to a couple other amendments, and then we'll pass this bill. Because I still support it. I still think that we need to take care of our veterans. I just think that we can take steps to even improve this bill even more and to make sure that we're not using the Department of Veterans Affairs in the future to try to increase spending on other unrelated matters.
So apparently Schumer says that the vote is going to be at 5 o'clock this afternoon. But let me just get you to drill down on what you just said there. If you vote on the amendments, the Toomey amendment, and the Toomey amendment doesn't pass, will you still vote for the bill?
Yes, I will. I voted for it in June. I thought it was a good bill then. I think it would be an even better bill with the Toomey amendment. But if the Toomey amendment fails, I will still vote on passage of this bill as I did in June. I think the vast majority of Republicans will do so as well.
Yeah, this idea of discretionary versus mandatory spending and creating a hole in the VA budget that could be filled with something else. We had Jon Stewart on a few minutes ago. I don't know if you heard him or not. He says that just doesn't really exist. I mean, I did see a CBO score where $396 billion in discretionary spending disappears. Ostensibly, I guess it would become mandatory. But his contention is that this is not an issue. So why did it become an issue?
Well, I had a good conversation with Mr. Stewart and several other of the veterans advocates up here today. This is an area where we just disagree. I do think that the Democrats in the future might try to use this somewhat obscure budgetary point to get more unrelated spending that's not for the benefit of veterans. That's why I support the Toomey Amendment. But I think that would make a good bill even better. But I will still support the good bill that we voted on in June, even if the amendment doesn't pass later today.
So is it your belief that after this vote at 5 o'clock, the PACT Act will indeed be ready for the president to sign it as it is? Or would it have to go back? I mean, I guess it would have to go back to the House if the Toomey Amendment passes.
Well, John, I can't predict how the vote is going to go on the Toomey Amendment. I do believe a couple other senators are trying to get amendments as well. I can't speak for every other senator, so I don't know what will pass or what may not pass this afternoon. But I do believe that we'll have an agreement to vote on any and all amendments later today, and we'll have a vote on passage in the Senate today.
And do you think that if you had a vote on passage, that it will be in the affirmative?
Yes, I do.
Okay. Senator Tom Cotton of Arkansas, always great to catch up with you. Thank you so much.
Thanks, John.